Good afternoon. This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for September 17th around 6 p.m. Well, right now the tropics are relatively quiet, which is a good thing after this past week we had going into the weekend. It's just been nonstop activity in the tropics, and of course we have the tragedy that is ongoing up in North Carolina. So let's get right to the tropical weather outlook. You can see the remnants of Joyce. Well, it's tropical depression right now, but it's winding down quickly near the Azores. We have the Invest, which is the former tropical storm Isaac near Jamaica. None of the models are really developing this very much. The only model that really tries to develop this a little bit is the H-Wharf model in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. None of the other models, the global models, are indicating this is going to regenerate. So we'll keep an eye on it, but it doesn't look like it's going to be any kind of a significant threat. And of course, we have Florence winding down in West Virginia right now as a tropical depression, and the system is going to potentially go back out over the open waters and could bend back to the south. Some of the models like the GFS want to try to regenerate this out in the open Atlantic, so we'll see if it regenerates. You know the old saying, hindsight is 20/20. Well, here was the National Weather Service forecast for Hurricane Florence rainfall totals of up to 20 inches and in and around the, this was up in the Morehead City area. Well, it ended up, they did get a lot of rain up that way, but the rain totals have exceeded that by quite a bit, especially down in the Wilmington area. So here is the entire past wind swath from the National Hurricane Center. You can see this started out near the Cape Verde Islands and moved generally off to the west-northwest. There was some indication it might move out to sea. And then the models started to indicate, no, this is going to continue to get closer and closer to the United States. Well, it ended up hitting the United States, and I'll show you how many have done that in the past that developed out near the Cape Verde Islands. But you can see the system made landfall there in the North Carolina area, and the red swath are hurricane force winds, and the yellow swath are tropical storm force winds. So we had the Outer Banks of North Carolina brushed. We had Morehead City and Wilmington as a direct hit from a hurricane, and then Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and Beaufort, South Carolina were all tropical storm impacts from Florence in the Hurricane City database. So Florence is probably going to end up getting retired. Here are 8 other systems, all benchmark systems, huge historic hurricanes that impacted land that developed in the same grid right near the Cape Verde Islands as Hurricane Florence developed in. So Florence will be added into that open spot there in the lower right-hand corner as one of 9 systems only that made it all the way across and hit land as a hurricane. All the rest either hit as tropical storms or they went out to sea. Here is a map of the rain accumulations over the past 5 days, and this is amazing. You can see at the top of the scale there, it's right off the charts. I mean, 30 plus inches in some areas right off the coast and even south of New Bern, North Carolina. And then right around Myrtle Beach, the Wilmington area is where the heaviest rainfall was, over 30 inches and counting. So this is definitely a historic event. We've had the latest up around 20 people have been killed by Hurricane Florence, and the flooding is continuing. A lot of the rivers are still rising, so this is an ongoing disaster at this time. Here is a map from FEMA showing the biggest flood areas right now. These are where all of the disasters are taking place, where the flooding. I know you watch the news and you think the entire state is underwater. Well, it's really, really bad, but it's not the entire state. Yes, the entire state has sporadic flooding here and there, but inside these circles is where we have the water rescues going on. The people that are trapped in their homes, the water is continuing to rise inside of these circled areas. So hopefully if you have relatives or friends in these areas, I'm not sure if they can get out or not, but this is just to put in perspective how much square miles and where these exact flood locations are located. Here is a predictive radar for the next several days from WeatherTap. This is really cool. It shows you an animated radar going out into the future, and you can see the Northeast is going to get several inches of rain out of the remnants of Florence, and then Florence begins to work its way out over the open waters of the Atlantic, so we'll see what happens with that. But right now, all indications are only the Canadian model indicates maybe a weak system coming across from Africa that might develop in the intertropical convergence zone, but like I said, most models aren't predicting that Isaac is going to make a comeback, and looks like we're going to get a little bit of a quiet period. Long range, it looks like the beginning of October. Some of the models are indicating something could pop. Now we get to the I told you so segment. Back in May, I made my predictions on what areas I felt could be impacted by a named storm or hurricane throughout the hurricane season. You see them highlighted in yellow. Sable Island, Nova Scotia, already impacted by Tropical Storm Chris. Wilmington, North Carolina was my #1 area to be impacted in the United States this year, and they took a direct hit from a significant hurricane. Myrtle Beach was right behind it, #2. It almost made it in there as a hurricane, but still a tropical storm. And, of course, Cape Hatteras, North Carolina was brushed by Hurricane Florence. And the Isle of Pines, Cuba, was affected by Tropical Storm Alberto early in the season. So all of my top 5 have been impacted, and this is why I emphasize to people when I release my predictions at the beginning of every hurricane season, if you're on my top 5 list, go to the store, get your supplies, be ready, because somebody in my top 5 is going to get impacted. Look right below there, 2003, my #1, Halifax, Nova Scotia, hit by Juan. 2004, my #1, Pensacola, hit by Ivan. 2005, my #2 and 3 and 4, or #2 and 3 rather, impacted by Hurricane Katrina. In fact, that year I even made a video stating that there was going to be a high death toll in the Northern Gulf this year. It really concerned me in 2005, and then Katrina hit. Last year, Hurricane Irma, Marathon, was my #1 pick, and they took a direct hit from Hurricane Irma, and here we go this year with Wilmington. Check it out, hurricanecity.com/predictions. There's a formula that I've come up with that's been very effective at figuring out where these things are going to go. As Hurricane Florence made landfall, we were live doing the Hurricane Warning Show, which is a tradition at Hurricane City over the past 20 years, and we covered Florence making landfall with radars and satellites and her track program images and everything. We had conversation back and forth between myself and Bill Phillips. That archive is edited and ready to go, but we're waiting for all the final totals to come in on the death toll and the flooding and the amount of inches of rain, and then we'll release the archive. To take a look at all the other archives from the past, hurricanecity.com/video archives, and that has all the years of hurricane coverage. Check it out. You'll enjoy some of the old coverage, and this video will be released over the next several days once all the final tally comes in. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for watching. We always need hurricanes donations at Hurricane City. Please visit the donation links and help us out any way you can. I'm Jim Williams. Thank you for watching.